Okay guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you guys are all doing well. It's going to be a huge series for this channel. I hope it's going to answer a lot of y'all's questions. I've had so many people send me messages, send me comments, hey, can you talk about tow cars? And if I did all of this into one video, it would be like 4 hours long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it up into a series. I might add more to this series later on, but for right now it's going to be a 3-part. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hope I answer some of y'all's questions. Please get a drink, get a pad, piece of paper, a pen, beer, coffee, a snack, whatever you guys need, and let's go ahead and get started. This is part 1 of a 3-part series that I'm going to be doing here on the channel. As I said, you guys have been asking a lot of questions about tow cars. So what I'm going to do is today we're going to talk about basic information, basic stuff that you guys should keep in mind before you start looking for a car, definitions, you know, that kind of stuff. It's probably going to be a little boring for some of y'all, but try and stick around because you might find, you know, it might be like, oh, I didn't think about that, you know, so hopefully this will help you guys. If you guys have questions about tow cars or the equipment, those are going to be the next 2 videos that I'm going to be making. So the next video will be about tow cars, how to find out information on which ones can be flat towed, and then the following week will be about the equipment, things that you need to buy, things you need to keep in mind, what type of equipment, resources to find that equipment, you know, etc., etc. I personally will be making a video about my own tow equipment. That'll be later on. I had an issue with some of the items that were shipped to me, so I had to return them, and I have to go back to Florida in order to get all this stuff installed. So it's going to be a little bit longer before I can do that video for you guys, but I will be making it. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about, what does flat tow mean? You're probably, you know, if you're brand new, you're like, I don't even know what it means to flat tow a car. Okay, so basically what that means is when your vehicle is behind the RV, your car has to have all 4 wheels on the ground while you're towing it. So most companies will not allow you to have like a dolly system or a trailer for you to put your car on top of. So you have to make sure that you can flat tow the vehicle. All 4 wheels are on the ground at all times. So there's a couple other names for that. There's dinghy towing, flat tow, 4 on the floor, towed is another one. So if you guys ever hear those words, that's what they're talking about. Okay, so it's super important, and I know it can be very overwhelming trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I know if a car can be flat towed? The best way to find out is the owner's manual of your vehicle. There's usually a towing section somewhere in the back. It's more towards the back because not a lot of people do it. It will tell you if it can be flat towed, how it should be towed. If you can flat tow, it'll tell you like, you know, do you have to stop frequently? Can you just put it in neutral and go? Do you have to pull a fuse? Anything like that. So the owner's manual is a great start. But next week I will be talking about different resources on where you can go to find information about which cars you can buy in order to flat tow. So there's a few things that you need to keep in mind while you're searching for your vehicle to flat tow. A lot of companies have different requirements. And you've got to kind of, I had to like write them down based on each company I wanted to work for. That way I could be like, okay, this fits this one, it doesn't fit this one. Okay, I could do this one, I can't do this one, you know, that kind of thing. If you go on the company's websites, they will tell you what the requirements are for tow vehicles. If you can't find that information, make sure you call the company, okay? What I say here today, it might change in the future. I don't know. Okay, it depends on the companies, depends on laws and rules and all that kind of stuff. So make sure that you double check with the company that you want to run for before you go out and purchase a vehicle. So the big thing that a lot of companies vary on the most is weight restrictions. A lot of companies have maximum weights that your tow car can be in order for you to use it on their for their company. Okay. Some companies are a max of 3,000 pounds. Some companies are a max of 4,000 pounds. Some are 3,500. I've never really seen anybody over 4,000, but again, make sure you check with that company before you decide, okay, I'm going to buy this car, and then you find out you can't use that car for that company you wanted to drive for. As I said previously, a lot of companies will not allow you to use a dolly or a trailer in the back. So you make sure that the car that you purchase or you want to purchase can be flat towed. Okay, that's very, very important. There might be like smaller companies that will allow you to use a dolly system. I haven't seen anybody, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. Okay, so make sure you call around to get the requirements. So who needs a tow car, right? That's a pretty big question, because you can absolutely do this job without a tow car. Okay, it's not a requirement. Okay, usually I tell people, if you want to do like small day trips, if you want to stay within 1,000 miles of Goshen all the time, probably getting a tow car is going to be best for you. If you are going to be driving for a company that has a good solid backhaul load board, probably a good idea as well. I would recommend getting with the company first, seeing how well their backloads are before purchasing that vehicle. Okay, because like I said, I mean, it's kind of a good size investment. I don't want you guys to waste your time or your money. So these are things that you just gotta kind of think about, before you go out and spend, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Okay, so those are my two ideal situations. If you're going to fit into one of those categories the most, then I would recommend probably looking for a tow car. But you don't have to have one. Okay, I haven't needed it up to this point. Okay, but I also do a lot longer trips. I like going out west more than the Northeast or the South. Okay, so again, keep that in mind. Okay, so big questions that I get all the time. Should I buy a used car? No idea. I don't know what that is. Okay, so a lot of times, these are probably the most common questions that I get. Should I buy new or used? I strongly recommend used. Okay, you are going to wear the crap out of that thing very quickly, and you're going to put a lot of miles on it very quickly. Okay, and if you don't play it right, you could be, $500 a month car payment on a 2-year-old car that has 150,000 miles on it. Okay, that's not ideal. You're going to wear, here's the big difference between Driveaway and Towaway. Towaway diesel pickups are created for those harsh conditions, right? They're created to withstand all of those miles on the road. Okay, basic four-wheeler automobiles, especially the way they're being made nowadays, aren't created for that kind of harsh, all the time, constant wear and tear. They're not created as well for it. So you're going to be it's going to be, first of all, it's going to be really hard to resell it. Okay, and second of all, it's not worth having a new car to go and destroy, essentially. Okay, I recommend used. If you have a brand new car that can be flat towed, that's what you want to use. More power to you. But I do recommend a used over new. Auto versus manual. Typically, my manuals are way easier to flat tow. Okay, autos, there aren't a lot that can be flat towed, and when they can be, it usually is not as simple as putting it in neutral and just going. Okay, there's a lot of different cars have different things you have to do. Okay, so for example, my Honda is an automatic. I tried very hard to find a manual, could not find one. Mine's an automatic. So before I start my day, I have to turn on the car, and I have to sit there and I have to cycle through the gears. Okay, I have to go all the way down to 1 and then go all the way back up to reverse. Then I go down to neutral. I have to turn it off, run it on accessory, and then every 200 to 250 miles, I have to pull over and I have to do the same process over. Okay, so it's not as easy as just putting it in neutral and just driving for hours and hours on end. Okay, like I said, you have to really make sure that you check the owner's manual, because even the websites I'm going to provide for you guys next week, you need to double check that information as well. Okay, some autos require you to pull a fuse. Some autos require you to, there's just a bunch of different things that can be very different for an auto compared to a manual. Most manuals, some manuals are weird, okay? Most manuals are pretty much just put it in neutral and you're good to go, okay? Okay, so how much should I spend on a used car for flat tow? I would say no more than 6,000 or 7,000. I would kind of make that my cap. You can find some pretty good vehicles for that price that are low mileage, in good condition. They look nice. Those are things you need to pay attention to. I would say no more than 7,000. Okay, that way you don't have a huge debt. You can get that debt paid off very quickly, and you still have 2 or 3 years before you have to replace that car. I would say honestly that's the lifespan of most tow cars, is probably about 2 or 3 years, because like I said, they just go through, they get beaten on pretty bad. Okay, it's constant wear and tear on your suspension and your transmission, and we'll talk about that here in a second. What do you want to use this car for? Okay, I know that's kind of a weird question. Are you strictly going to use it for a tow car situation? Do you want to sleep in it when you're not driving a unit or anything like that? Do you want to use it as tow car and a way to sleep without having to pay for a hotel? Do you want to use it for strictly storage purposes? You need to find out what it is this car is going to be for you. Okay, the main goal for my car is I was spending a ton of money on hotels when I came back to Goshen. Okay, because I was jumping between Horizon and Synergy. There would be a day or 2 lapse, and it was cutting into my profits. Okay, so the CRV I have with the little setup I have has been a godsend. It has saved me a ton of money so far, having it up here and for me to be able to sleep in the back at night. Okay, so you got to figure that out. Do you want a small car, something very lightweight, very easy to maneuver, great gas mileage? Do you want a small SUV or a crossover? That's one downside to the CRV, is it doesn't get the best gas mileage, especially the all-wheel drive is horrible. I get horrible gas mileage. Okay, so those are things you need to, write down and figure out what is going to suit your needs the most. Okay. All right, so when you are searching for a car, either online or if you're going to dealers, what are some things that you need to look for? What are some things you need to look at? Okay, make sure you get a Carfax. Okay, make sure you check the outside overall condition. Companies don't want you driving up in a car that's rusted out, has 3 different color doors. You can make sure it looks professional. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay, but just make sure it's not all beaten up and it's not all rusted and faded and stuff like that. Okay, so make sure it looks nice. Low mileage is definitely a good thing to look for, because you're going to be putting a lot of miles on that car. Take it to a mechanic. Take it to a mechanic, guys. I did not do that with the CRV, and I learned my lesson. Especially have them really focus on suspension, okay, especially on the front, because that's really, the components are going to get worn down very quickly. Make sure they check, you know, if you test drive it, make sure the transmission is nice and smooth. There's no hardness or roughness or anything like that. You know, obviously check tires, make sure tires are good. That way you don't have to go right off the bat spending all of this money on stuff that should already be decent, okay? Gives you a little bit of time to make some money before you have to go out and buy the maintenance and stuff. Make sure you are having a maintenance account. Okay, so what I do is I do 12 cents a mile. I will put in my savings, my business savings account, and that's my maintenance account. Okay, that will cover oil changes, transmission fluids, flushes. It covers all of it, okay? You are going to be doing a ton of oil changes, okay, especially if you take it on long distance trips. You will be doing a lot of oil changes. You'll be doing a lot of tires, all of that stuff. Okay, so make sure you're saving as much as you need back with each trip. Probably the three main things that you need to really make sure you are on top of on maintenance: your suspension. Okay, again, your suspension is going to get wrecked. It's going to be constantly moving, even though the vehicle is not turned on. Your tires, okay, make sure you rotate them out all the time. Just make sure you keep them well balanced, the alignment's good, make sure that you're rotating correctly at the right intervals, okay? And your transmission fluid. If your owner's manual says change it out every 30,000 miles, I would do it every 15 or 20, okay? Cut that in half, especially if it's automatic, because autos, they're just not, they're not the best ideal transmission for this, okay? They're gonna just get, they're gonna have a lot of wear, okay? So yeah, make sure you check your especially do the transmission fluid. Change that out more often than what is said in your owner's manual, which could potentially be expensive, especially if the transmissions are sealed, especially on the newer cars. A lot of them have sealed transmissions, and they don't typically have like a little dipstick for them. So those could be more expensive potentially. Okay, so make sure that's something you either ask a mechanic or a dealer. That's why it's important to take it to the dealer, okay, or excuse me, take it to a mechanic. That way they can kind of give you all this information, let them know what you're going to be doing with it, and you know, it might be some bias into their response, but you know, just listen to what they have to say and just take that information and go. You know, if that's going to be okay with you, take it. If not, don't take it, okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it for the first video for our series. It's very important to be, this requires a lot of research, okay? This isn't something that you just go out and just, okay, I like that one, and you just take it and you go, okay? You need to make sure that you really sit down, you know, take your pad, take your pen, go on the internet, do some research, okay? I do have a list of some of the more common vehicles that people will tow, and I'll do that next week on next week's video. It is not a, you know, there's kind of some conditions to that list, and I'll go over that as well, but, you know, this isn't something you just go on the internet, pick one and go, okay? You need to really sit down, figure out your budget, make sure it's going to be, make sure you're actually going to continue to make money even with a tow car behind you, okay? Especially on the smaller trips, you know. Even though it's 1,000 miles for you to drive the unit, that's 2,000 miles total on your car, okay? On those three main components that I talked about. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind. Is it going to be worth having that extra expense? You know, because we're already, you know, we're not doing $1.80 mile like driveway, or excuse me, like towaway drivers are, right? You know, we're at 80 to 95 cents, depending on who you're with. So, you know, we already have to be very mindful. And, you know, it's just something to think about. Okay, so make sure you do your research. Like I said, next week we'll be going over tow cars, how to find out information of cars that can be flat towed. And yeah, it's going to be a good video. It's going to be probably longer than this one. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer anything that I can. If you have any questions for the videos coming up, leave them down below as well. I'll make sure I touch base on those as well. So, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this series. Finally getting around to it, so I'm pretty excited. Most common question I get in my messages and the comments. So, thanks guys. I do appreciate it. Hope you guys are all doing well. Please take care, stay safe and healthy, and I will see you guys next week.